Good evening and a very happy Christmas from all of us at the Cheeseman Podcast, and welcome to the show. Happy Christmas. My name's John. I'm your host for this evening. I've got three of them, HG. There's another one.
Is that your tiny Ray parlour? Is that what it is?
I wouldn't have a Ray parlour in this house. Goodness me. Don't insult me.
That's what it
They're
looks
my
like.
children's elves. The mischief they get up to is quite astonishing.
Is that what there's three of them?
I'm glad it's almost over. I'm not going to lie, because there's only so many ideas that these elves can have, possibly. Anyway, welcome to the show. And tonight is a truly international pre-Christmas show. And joining me all the way from the other side of the world in Sydney, Mr. David Harris.
Hello, everyone. Is this an instant? This is not an instant reaction show. So I don't have to go like that and instantly react. No. Okay. Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas and all that. You missed in the cheese room green room. You did miss Jack's 1960s beatnik jumper, which I know might be being sarcastic. It looked really cool. Anyway, hello, everybody.
And also, what I'm confused about is just before the start of the show, you asked me to swap you and HG round, so I did. And now you swapped again. How did that happen?
I didn't do a thing.
That's really strange. Do you want me to swap it around?
Yeah.
There we go. Because what I really like is it looks like HG and Jack are in the same room, even though.
Surely we would look that way regardless of where we're placed on the screen.
Well, no, but now you're above. And joining me from Vienna, HG, how are you? You're like the last one, apart from Caller, obviously, to actually break up for Christmas, aren't you, for holidays?
That's right. Today was our final day, but it just means I go back a week later than everyone else. So I think my first day back is the 8th, which feels far too far into the next year. I don't think I like that. But yeah, it's good. It's got warmer. It's going to be a higher 14, I think, on Christmas here. So yay. But no, I'm all right. And Spurs play tomorrow, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And from North Carolina, Jack, how are you, mate?
I'm doing great. I'm still at work. Just finished up a long week, and an interesting week in the sense that I learned something that I never knew, and I'm going to check with you guys because I don't know about how true this is. I've always heard the phrase "Happy Christmas," but I never really thought much about it. Why you said "Happy Christmas" versus "Merry Christmas"? And some Irish bloke tried to tell me it's because "merry" equals drunk. So if you say "Merry Christmas," you're getting drunk on Christmas. Is that accurate?
It was accurate for my grandmother. Absolutely.
I'm sure my son will take that as another excuse to have another beer, as we know very well. Oh, HG, Adrian's got a question for you. Have you been listening to the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra?
Maybe. No, I don't think so. I've been to the ballet. I've been to one of the concert halls. We always watch the New Year's Day concert like everyone does, only it's just down the road for me, which would be them. But I don't think I've actually been and seen them in person. So no, sorry.
That's a very highbrow question for this show.
I mean,
it's Adrian. That's what Adrian does.
I should say the only reason I've been to the ballet is because someone paid. I didn't want to go. It was very weird. It was there were very few tops on, but yeah, Vienna. It can be progressive.
There you go, John. Beautiful.
Sorry, JP. We've got to start it off with a bit of introductions. We're only 4 minutes in, so So, shall we get on with the?
Sorry, carry on.
1500. Wow, my dad's probably got that many in vinyl records, actually, but that's another story. Hence, there we go. So tonight we'll be talking about Spurs Everton. We'll be talking about transfers. We'll be talking about something called the Super League, and our injury, and any comments really you've got. We'll just see how we go in the next hour and a half or so. So here we go. Spurs play a rare Saturday 3 p.m. UK time kickoff. We haven't had a lot of those in the last few years. A few more this season, obviously because we're not in Europe. But firstly, is it me or Sean Dyche look like he's doing one of that little dance with the hips, the side to side thing that I won't? HG, you're the dancer, aren't you?
Really?
I've seen you dance on this show.
Maybe compared to the other people in the room tonight. Look, it's a bit Macarena, isn't it? Hands on the hips.
Maybe, yeah.
But
I reckon Dave did that on his Christmas do out the other day.
Me? I'm an all right dancer, actually, if I say so myself.
No, Kerry, it is still illegal to show 3 p.m. Saturday games in this country. So note is not on Spurs Play or anywhere in this country. The other three guys in this room can watch it on their legal formats, but if you want to watch it in this country, you cannot do it legally.
But
That
to
is
be
all I'm
fair,
going to say.
it's not at 3 p.m. here, so
Well, it's 4 p.m. Austria time.
yeah,
What
that's
time is
true.
it for you, Jack? I don't know how far behind. You
That'll be
5
a
hours
10.
behind?
That'll be a 10 a.m. game. We will be at the local pub, the Spurs pub here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Nice. And Dave, what's that going to be for? Like 2 a.m.
2 a.m. Yeah.
Ooh.
perfect.
You still be
time.
awake?
Perfect.
I think I might watch it blind tomorrow morning. Yeah.
You really should open your eyes, but that's okay.
Boom Tish, here all week, try the veal.
I love that we're like 5 minutes in and Jack's got his first dig in on Davo. That's the tone for the show right there.
Yeah.
So I saw this tweet earlier. Sean Dyche has won more Premier League games of football this season than Roberto De Zerbi. No one will tell you that because Sean Dyche is from Kettering, drinks beer, and sounds like he's had laryngitis since 2008.
It's quite a crazy stat.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is a crazy stat, especially when you look at the league, even despite the 10 points. This
and
was
the fact
team.
that go on, I'll say it. And the
Go
fact
on,
that Brighton played last night as well, and that tweet I think was from before last night's game. So yeah, Everton are winning games.
Yeah. This was the team that they played against Fulham on Wednesday night or Tuesday night in the cup. They lost on penalties.
Mm-hmm.
So they played a 4-2-3-1. I do understand they've got a tendency to play 5 at the back on away games sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be interesting to see how many play. The big key here is there's no Abdoulaye Doucouré. And I think HG, he's quite key to Everton, especially because he's a bit of a unit.
Well, yeah, and plus they like to play long balls up towards Calvert-Lewin and then try and fight for the second ball, which is where Doucouré comes in. I didn't see the Everton game, but I'm surprised that James Garner was a 10. I don't really know. He doesn't seem a very similar player to Doucouré, but yeah, they do like to hit the front man quickly if they can, and then hope that McNeil and Harrison get on the end of things. So, yeah, Doucouré not playing is good for Spurs, but they've still got a few things that can hurt us.
Yeah. I mean, I think I saw the team from last weekend where it was suggested that McNeil, if someone can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, because I didn't see the game, that McNeil was playing left wing back, so Branthwaite just tucked in, and then Gardner was playing left of a midfield 4. So he was able to affect the game more as a wide midfielder, as it were. Jack, do you see any real changes in that Everton team apart from guys who played Tuesday?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much they change, except by having to change. They didn't obviously rotate a whole lot. Doucouré is a big miss for them, certainly, but I don't expect them to change I don't think they'll change how they play. They are about, I think only Sheffield and Luton have more long ball than they do with Everton. I mean, Pickford is going to be sending that diagonal ball, like you're saying, HG, to Calvert-Lewin all day long, which is going to go one of two ways. Either, a high line will make that a fairly easy mop-up job, but even if we get 49 of the 50, if you miss one, it can result in a goal. And I'm just going to be curious to see if they come out and play a little bit more. I mean, they are willing to play. Sean has proven that, with the better players, he's willing to play a little bit. Against the Newcastle, in that Newcastle game, they had 2 passing combinations over 25 passes, one resulting in a goal. They actually will play a little bit. I'm curious to see without Udogie and Basuma, will they come out and press a little bit, or will they just sit in a 4-5-1 mid block and just make us pass through the lines, which is going to be a lot more difficult, I think, when you've got the left side of Emerson and Davies. It's not going to be as comfortable to get through. And then you've got Pierre probably playing at the 6, I guess. So it could be a very frustrating watch for most of us, because I'm worried about, Everton's not bad. They've only lost a couple of games in the last couple of months. This is not going to be an easy match, I don't think.
Do you not think Skip will start, not Højbjerg, considering Skip came on last week?
I would be surprised that Skip starts, because I don't think he has had very many minutes at the base of the midfield. I mean, Pierre's not my favorite choice. I'd rather play Sarr there if I were, I'm not the coach, and he knows no more than I do. But I'd rather see Sarr trying to bring the ball out than Pierre or Skip. But I would think that if he's going to play Pierre, it's Sarr at the 8, then he's definitely going to play Pierre at the base, not Skip. I just don't see that happening. I would be surprised and a little bit worried.
Okay. Dave, Everton's form. I don't know if you can see that very well on your screen, but as you can see, there's a lot of green there, a lot of wins, and obviously the defeat in midweek was on penalties. I did see a video earlier on Twitter of the Fulham fans singing about Jordan Pickford's got small arms, can't reach the corners, or something like that. It was quite amusing. Anyway, if I find it, I'll retweet it later. So is that the trick?
I think he looks like the kid out. I think he looks like the kid out of This Is England. To be honest, that's what I think he looks like with small arms. Yeah, I mean, look, they've hit a good bit of form, and if they had their 10 points deducted, then the table would show that they would be.
I'll try and make me find the table now because I've left it. Stupid page number on here.
I think they'd be 8th.
It's just interesting looking at the list of results. They had one result there of them beating Villa at Villa, which clearly wasn't a league game. Must have been a League Cup, I guess.
Yeah.
But still, to beat Villa at Villa this season is almost impossible, even if it is.
It was a League Cup.
Yeah. But I looked at the away games that Everton have had recently that they've won according to that list, and a lot of them are teams that we've also won away against. It was Forest away, it was Burnley away. And there was another one down there. Palace, exactly.
Away.
So
and West Ham.
Yeah, I mean, winning at West Ham would be more difficult for us because it's their cup final. But still, there's some good results, and they're the results of a solid mid-table side. I mean, where would they be? 26 points.
Well, they'd be just above Chelsea.
Yeah. But basically, they would be the gap, right? Because there would be 4 points between them and Chelsea. So it would be a top 10 and a bottom 10, pretty much. And I've always said you should have a chance of getting to the Champions League if you win half your games, and Everton are pretty much approaching that. It just seems weird that there are so many teams who are about 50% of wins. Have there been fewer draws this season than most? I don't know. It's a weird one to look at that, because normally you might see the top 6 or 7. I mean, 6, probably just 6 teams that are close to hitting that 50% win. And if you look at that, there's maybe 10 teams that are around that figure. It's pretty good going.
Yeah, on wins they'd be 8th. I mean, no, not points, but just there'd only be 7 other teams with more wins if they hadn't had the. I mean, that's my point, is that they play very well, and I'm not expecting this to be a very easy match, just because I think stylistically they're contrasts, and it's going to be a matter of whether or not they can convert their long ball attack in behind our defense successfully, or we're just going to be controlling the ball and playing their half but have trouble scoring. And that's kind of what I expect to see.
But if you're going to have 10 points deducted in this season, it's a good season to have 10 points deducted, because you look at the paucity of the teams in the relegation positions that, I think that they've done well there. I mean, not done well, but if you're going to get a points deduction, it's a good season to do it in.
I think it's better to have it done early, isn't it, in the season? If it happened in April, it would almost be absolute killer for you. But they've really come back, and I think the first game afterwards, was the Man United game, and they lost 3-0. But apparently they played really well in that game, and they were unlucky.
And is their stadium opening next season?
Isn't it the season after?
Yeah, it's not next season. I think they've decided they could open it at some point during next season, but they've decided to wait until the start of the following season because that's the right thing to do. Hint, hint, Spurs. But so it's another 18 months before it opens fully.
And they also have a.
Go
on. They also have I think there's a lot contingent on the ownership situation, because that 777 group is still not approved and ready. So there's a whole lot of uncertainty. I mean, to be honest with you, those players and Sean Dyche have done really, really well between. Everyone United keeps blaming them. The ownership situation is contributing factor, but yet Everton's ownership situation is way more uncertain. Their finances are way less stable, and yet those players have rallied around the situation with and a point deduction, which probably actually maybe fueled them, quite frankly. But still, I think what Everton's done has been pretty remarkable this year.
Yep. And will their new stadium have a go-kart track?
God, I hope so.
Maybe one for boats down the river.
Yeah, they could do a boating lake, couldn't they?
That would be awesome.
I like that idea.
One of those little remote control boat things that I used to have at Southend Pier when I was a kid.
And Lego Land. Get them in Lego Land as well. Very nice.
I'll get Arteta in there.
Yeah, he'll get locked away in the shed.
Here's the last 5 games, some little stats I picked up. And so Everton have only actually conceded 1 goal in the last 5 games. So it shows obviously what we know what Dyche is as a manager, but it really shows that he has sorted them out defensively. And they've got players that are capable of scoring. So, if you go on the law of averages, we should win 2.2 goals to 1.8. Job done. Job done. Although it's the conceding. How do you see this playing out, actually? Do you think they're going to keep it quite compact and then try and hit it on the counter, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what Jack said earlier, the idea that we'll have the ball and Everton will wait and be like 30, 35 yards from their own goal and then try and win a few tackles and hit Calvert-Lewin quickly. It's worked for Everton. They're not a team that really want to have the ball. We certainly will not want them to have it. It will be very much Ange saying we're at home. We have to kind of be the main team with it. And yeah, I fear it. I mean, if Spurs get an early goal, which we have done pretty well this season, then you never know. Unfortunately, a lot of those early goals have ended up in defeats, but we've got the first goal in how many games now this season? 14 out of 17? Something silly like that. So, and I do think that if we score first, then it means that Everton have to come on to us, then in theory, we should get better. There should be more space for it. But yeah, for Spurs to win tomorrow, it's kind of on how Spurs do. Like we've seen this season that we've not created much in 1 games, and we've seen that we have created a few chances and ended up losing because the other team took their chances. You could look at the way Everton play and think that's the way that Everton will win, is if they really they get maybe two or three big chances in the game, they take 2 of them and they win, and Spurs just don't really get enough shots off to trouble Pickford. But I think that if Spurs, considering that a lot of people are, the defence is an issue, but certainly in midfield and attack, we should have a good number of players that we would want to be seeing playing there, that we should create enough to me, score the goals we need. But with Spurs this season, you have to score 2. It's not going to finish 1-0 to Spurs, that's for sure. When it does. But until then, it won't finish 1-0 to Spurs, and we'll have to get a second.
When you sort of half read something and don't take it in, or you sort of misread it. My first initial reading of this was, Kerry, I touted it last weekend, and in my head I just pictured Steve Diver out on the high roads trying to sell tickets for the go-kart track. Thought, oh, Mr. Levy's got him working hard there. Anyway,
I'm not saying anything.
With a G&T in his hand, or
in a golf cart. Going around like, and this corner here.
I'd love to have a poster of Dave sitting in the go-kart in the stadium with a big grin on his face, and just have that framed and sitting in the cheese room, trophy cabinet. That would be fantastic.
Well, on the wall behind you, there's a big wall. You've got 2 big walls there. You could probably fill up a big picture of Dave.
Yeah, I could. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I've been in one of the things that the club has built. For the areas. There's
the stadium?
The Sainsbury's. I've been in the Sainsbury's. It's a lovely experience. Did you like a picture of me in the Sainsbury's?
And you wouldn't, and yet you say Sainsbury's when you know you're supposed to contractually say Tesco. I don't understand.
No,
you're not getting. Is it because callers
are
not
available? Aldi, Lidl, whatever you want.
I used to work on the 8 items or less till at Sainsbury's on a Saturday. 8 items or less. If anyone put 9 items on, I'd go, sorry, can't serve you. Hard to believe, isn't it? Should we move on from my Sainsbury's nostalgia?
Coke Can's going 3. I think he's trying to get us back on track. Wants us to give our predictions. But shall we talk about this? I know we touched on it already. Who's going to play Basuma? HG.
Well, I'm gonna ape what Jack says. Like, I think Højbjerg will, based on what we've seen, that Højbjerg's played more minutes as a 6 than anyone else that's available. I agree with Jack. I don't want him to. I'd rather see Sarr. And then it's really a case of like if you're trying to pick players that have similar characteristics to the one that would usually play there, then to me, Sarr is the most like Bissouma that we have available, right? And you can choose between Kulusevski and Lascelles. So it's probably going to be Kulusevski to be the attacking midfielder now that Johnson's definitely fit. But then you have a choice as to who's most like Sarr's normal position. is that going to be Skip or Højbjerg? And that's to me is a question, because maybe Skip has the legs that Højbjerg doesn't, and so maybe he could provide more of that stability that that Sarr usually provides. But I do think it's going to be Højbjerg as the 6, with Sarr as the 8 and Kulusevski as the 10.
David?
Yeah, and I just don't. I mean, I'd love to have a frank conversation with Ange to understand what the logic is there. Just because I'd almost make an argument if Everton's going to sit in the mid block, then you could actually play. Since now that we know Gio's fit for at least a half hour, that you could start Kulu and Gio with Sarr behind them.
Yeah.
Because you're going to need people who can pick a pass. And if you didn't want to do that, and I can understand why you don't, then you play Pierre further up and not Skip, because at least Pierre doesn't look clueless in and around the box. I mean, he actually has a great record of assists when he gets in those positions, both for Denmark and for the Spurs. He's just not as comfortable in the half turn, and he doesn't get the ball out quickly enough. Now, if Everton sits off, it's not going to matter. But they're probably going to look to cut off the pass. And if you've got Emerson as one of your outlets in that midfield position, that's not a great solution either. So, if everything's going to probably have to go up the right, and I assume they're going to overload that side because of that. And unless Emerson has a blinder, or he fills in for Davies making his runs, it's going to be tough to build out with Pierre at the 6 and Emerson at the left back. So that's my biggest concern about how this is going to play out.
I agree with Jack. Let's go Ange Ball, balls out. Right. Let's have Sarr sitting, Kulu, GLC. Let's just go for it. They're gonna sit and be boring. Let's just do it. Let's be sexy, Ange Ball.
I mean, Ange Ball's sexy most of the time anyway. King Hoddle, obviously Emerson, I think that's a given that he's going to play Udogie. But he's going PEH for Basuma. So Kerry brought up Patreon prediction, so a good time to plug Patreon as well. We've got our own Patreon for £3 a month plus VAT. You can join us in our little chat group, patreon.com/The Cheese Room Podcast. Obviously, that's how Jack and myself both came onto the YouTube channel through the Patreon. Yep. There's a lovely picture. You can see the socials we have. Even though Dave's in Sydney and Caller's somewhere up north, they still managed to meet up for a beer at the game. But we've got loads of chats in there. We've got we've got match forums, we've got prediction league, we've got fantasy football. Jack, what else have we got in there? Loads of stuff.
Ticket share. That's the biggest thing there's the number of games that people have been able to get to. When they're traveling into London from all over the parts, the number of tickets that have exchanged hands through that system has been fantastic. I've taken advantage of it, or my son did when he was living in England, I should say, many times. It's fantastic. Yeah,
indeed. I did as well. We've got season ticket holders who have never even sat in their season ticket, who just sell them for every game because they're in the country. It's the slight bizarreness of having a season ticket, I guess. But there you go. So, yeah, patreon.com/The Cheese Room Podcast.
That's another good feature as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got people from all over the world. So wherever you are, we've got people in Hong Kong. Obviously, got a lot of Aussies in there. And again, that's how JP and Cameron came on the show. Loads of us in there anyway.
Yeah, HG found me on a park bench in Vienna and asked me if I wanted to come. I was just sipping a can of Red Stripe and he asked me if I wanted to come on. Thanks,
were you drunk, dribbling, raving out?
Yeah, you rescued me from a park bench and turned my life around. Thanks, mate.
So shall we quickly do... Oh, yes, Daniel's right. There's good bants in there.
Absolutely.
Banter.
HG, prediction, Spurs Everton.
Prediction?
So I've gone early.
1-1.
Ooh. Jack.
Well, in the Patreon prediction league, I that was one of the games I picked. I picked Spurs 2-1 despite my that's my heart picking over my head. Otherwise, I might be more along the lines of HG's prediction.
As I said, we're going to go uber sexy Ange Ball. We're going to win 3-2 because we're going to be uber sexy before Christmas. Okay.
See, I was trying to think about pre-Christmas games, and in my head, and I haven't looked at previous years, but a lot of these are always quite tight. and I seem to remember a few 1-0 wins over the years just before Christmas, and a bit scrappy. I remember a game against Swansea where Vertonghen scored a right-footed half volley from the edge of the box, which is a live Sunday game, I think. So I would go 1-0. No real reason, just it's because it's just before Christmas. So Stevie's going 3-0. JP's gone 2.
Like if you think about our best front three will probably start, right? If you think that Ange just put Johnson on the right for a reason, Son would be on the left, Richarlison therefore has to be the mid. Like, is that our best front three? Probably, right?
At the moment.
And then the question is, okay, maybe Kulusevski wouldn't get there ahead of Maddison. So, but Kulusevski is not far off that. He's a pretty good player to have as a 10. And so like and the Saar would probably start in that best team. So are we missing what 1.2 of our best 6? And if you think about the back 4, how many are we missing? Like it's still going to be a pretty good Spurs team. It's still, you know what I mean? It's like if you've got 3 players out or 3 players rotated or however you want to phrase it, like you should still be able to do this. If we want to be that kind of club that can be able to move players around and give people rest when they need to, then we need to show that we can win these games against mid-table sides at home, especially at home. Like you wouldn't want to do that away from home, but at home, if you want to be one of the best, this is kind of the game you have to go out and prove it and win it with, using players 13, 14, 15, and 16. I don't know. Like I'd like to think that we will get the balance right, and I think that is the key thing. We've seen this season. If the midfield balance is wrong, we'll get beat.
And that's why, Dave, I don't think you're going to get your sexy Ange Ball, because one of the problems, while we can put out a pretty good 11, the problem is we don't have a lot of options off the bench if you start Gio and you're chasing a goal. So that would be one of the reasons why he's going to start on the bench, because at least if you need a goal, you can bring him in and actually change the balance, change the focus a little bit. And as opposed to starting him, hoping you get up a couple goals and then you bring in a Pierre or a Skip to try and lock things down. But what I'm really interested in, I'm glad you brought that up about Maddison, as he's starting to return to training, as I see expected back in regular training pretty soon. Whether or not Johnson can rise enough to let Kulusevski and Maddison play at the 8s, knowing that we're not going to see Benicor until probably late February. Whether or not both those are going to be playing at the same time with Johnson, Richie, and Son up top, and I think that's a pretty intriguing front 5 in my thinking.
Interesting you say that, Jack, because I think Ange has made a hint today that Bentancur's on a similar sort of trajectory as Madders and Van de Ven, possibly in January.
I didn't realize. Oh no, I didn't see that. Okay, well that's fantastic news, especially considering
if we can get
who we're going to be
get them all
missing
back
to the international tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, I'm imagining that. What's the game? Is it Brentford, the last game of January? That in my head, that's either maybe the 4th round of the cup if we make it past Burnley, or that week we might maybe see them as subs and integrated. Yeah,
it's the problem we got. It's not much coming off the bench at the moment. That's the issue.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pity we haven't got another lower league team in the 3rd round of the cup, so maybe we get to see Donnelly get more than 5 minutes.
5 seconds.
A couple of those
5 minutes would be a lot.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, he got 5 minutes in the first game, and then you got 5 seconds. Oh, Valise came on for literally 2 seconds, didn't he, against Forest?
That was a great sub.
Yeah.
I mean, his stats. He's been very effective as a 5-second sub so far for these. Well worth it.
He's done nothing wrong.
What I did
he's taken his tracksuit off really well, warmed up, come on, and then goes back, sits back down again.
I mean, I did like against Villa. He came on and just literally just bashed as many Villa players as he could. I thought, just typical Argentinian, really, for Spurs. He's been following Romero very well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, shall we discuss the Super League? So, A22 Sports, we have won the hashtag right to compete. The UEFA monopoly is over. Football is free. It's not free, is it? Let's face it. Clubs are now free from the threat of sanction and free to determine their own futures. Our CEO, Bernd Reichard, comments. Spurs follow this up with a statement. Following today's ruling by the European Court of Justice regarding the European Super League, we should like to confirm that our position has not changed. We remain committed to the values of European football, and we will continue to work with fellow clubs through the ECA and participate in UEFA competitions. So
we're
that's
not very,
from when they
we're not very,
finished
but we're not
2 years ago.
Yeah, we're not committed this season, are we? Because we're not in one.
No. Just a quick run through of what the Super League actually is. There'll be 2 stages, the league stage and knockout stage. The men's league stage will have 64 teams split into 3 leagues: Star, Gold and Blue. What stupid names. The women's league will have 32 teams split into Star and Gold. Star and Gold leagues both have competitions will be split into 16 teams split into 2 groups of 8. The Blue League will be split into 32 teams split into 4 groups of 8. Because Europe's not complicated anyway. The top 4 teams in the Star and Gold leagues will compete in the knockout rounds, consisting of 2-legged quarterfinals, semi-finals. The top 2 teams in the 4 Blue leagues will do the same. The winners of each final will be crowned the Star, Gold, or Blue League champions. I've always wanted to be the Blue League champion. Goodness me. 2 teams who reach the Gold and Blue finals, or just the Gold in the women's competition, will earn promotion to the league above. The teams at the bottom of the Star leagues will be relegated to the Gold League. In the Men's Gold League, 2 bottom-placed teams in each group will be relegated to the Blue League. 20 of the 32 Blue League teams will drop out of the competition at the end of their campaign, replaced by clubs depending on their domestic league performance. In the Women's Gold League, 4 teams will drop out of the league at the end of their campaign, replaced by clubs depending on domestic league performance. Oh my God, yes, King Hoddle.
I prefer this comment.
In England, clubs are forbidden from joining unapproved competitions such as licensing conditions set by the English Game's new independent regulator, while the Premier League's owner charter agreed in 2022 also contains undertakings not to engage in creation of the new competition format outside the Premier League rules. So basically, Spurs and all the other clubs that said we're not engaging with it had to do that anyway, even if they wanted to engage with it. So I think King Hoddle's called it right. It's a load of old. HG?
I mean, to be fair, like they're doing away with the Conference League, right? Because 64 teams right now would be the Champions League and Europa League group stage. They're doing away with anything else. So I guess some would see that as a victory. But yeah, it's for those teams that are in the Conference League right now, then it's clearly not a good thing. That they're not even providing anything for them. They're not interested in minnows like Aston Villa, who have never done anything in Europe, or whatever. Eintracht Frankfurt, who didn't win the Europa League 2 seasons ago. It's just crazy. Like I understand that they feel as if they just want the bigger teams to be in those, but how are they going to decide who makes up those 64 teams? Like there's a lot of detail not involved there, which frankly we want to know. Like if you're going to come up with something, you can't just be like, yeah, I'm going to take you on holiday for 2 weeks, and then the first question you ask is where, and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to take you on holiday for 2 weeks. It's going to be good for 2 weeks. No, it is a lot of hot air right now, sadly.
So that's can I just clarify? It's Gold, Star.
No, Star is at the top.
Yeah, Star,
yeah.
Gold and Blue. But what colour is the Star? Is it gold?
It's got to be silver.
It's silver.
Well, then why is silver above gold? Doesn't work.
There's a star.
That's your criticism of this? Is the color schemes?
I mean, yeah, well, yeah, to be honest, because I mean, HG saying there's not enough detail there. We just had 4 bloody slides on the thing, right? I mean,
Oh, there's more. There's more.
No.
HG was bored at work today, so he's made his own slides.
Great.
We've had lots of Christmas parties with 11-year-olds. This is not so much fun. Look, so what I did was I looked at the 64 teams that are right now the best 64 teams according to UEFA's club coefficient, right? And they are the best 16 teams, so they would be in the Star League. And I decided that in true, tennis style, where 1 and 16 are in the same thing, and 4 and 5 are in the same thing, that you'd end up with groups looking like this. Obviously, this wouldn't happen because I think all the English teams ended up being on the same side, and they wouldn't want to see that. But those are apparently the 16 best teams according to UEFA. Sevilla clearly probably wouldn't deserve it right now, but they've won a couple of Europa Leagues. So what are you? That's based on 5 years worth, right? But yeah, that's what I did, and to give you an idea of what you would see. So in theory, Bayern Munich would play Real Madrid twice, and Inter Milan twice, and Leipzig twice. Each team twice. and at the end of it, the top 4 would make it to a quarterfinals, or
the knockout.
round of 16. I don't know, top 4 of each side. And only the bottom 2. This is the thing that annoys me the most. Only the bottom 2, after you've done that competition, would leave the Star League. So 14 of those 16 teams would be in it the following year, regardless of how good they were domestically. And that is always going to be the key problem for me.
Yeah, and then you did your gold.
I did. I found out Tottenham are 30th, which is pretty crappy. Like, I know that we haven't been in it. We're not in it this year, so obviously, and I think this year is the first year that doesn't include the Champions League final points. So we sank pretty badly. But yeah, I mean, look at them. Rangers are ahead of us. Shakhtar Donetsk are ahead of us when it comes up. Even look at that team underneath Arsenal. They have a better European record than we do over the last few years. So that would be. I mean, that looks like very much a Europa League standard group. Let's be honest. That does look like the Europa League. But yeah, of those 16 teams, only 2 of those would leave. So you're basically saying that every year, 30 of the best 32 will definitely be in one of those 2 leagues the following year. It's garbage. It's absolute garbage. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then your Blue League, which is Europa League, basically. Euro Conference League, almost, isn't it?
Oh, man, I've spelt Marseille wrong. Embarrassing.
God.
Oh, my word.
I'm going to report you to school.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see the teams that are, I mean, AC Milan, you'd think would probably be in, obviously they're not going to do it based on UEFA coefficient. So they're probably going to throw in a few teams in here that have better following of fans, like Lazio might make it, Milan might make it, possibly one of the French sides like Rennes, I don't know, but it's that looks like a Conference League competition. I mean, so it's the same teams. I mean, I think I saw that there were a few teams who were outside of the 64 that you think might be invited, because obviously Villa and Newcastle hadn't been in Europe at all until this season, so they were nowhere near the top 64. But 64 teams is quite a lot, and so it will be. I'm assuming it will be a pretty broad amount of countries that would be allowed to take part. It's not going to be much different standard-wise to what we've seen, but the key difference is clearly the fact that every season, 30 of the best 32 will keep their spot for the following season, and that's just it's a load of shite, really.
And the Champions League format's changing next season, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's slightly less complicated than this.
I think it's actually more complicated than what they've come up with, because they have a 36-team league where there are no groups.
Correct.
And so of those 36 teams, you all play a certain amount of games, but clearly you can't play everyone. So that's slightly unfair. I don't know how they're going to work out who you get to play.
Really?
That seems.
We figured it out in MLS. Don't worry about it. You don't need a balanced schedule at all. Don't worry about it. We got it all figured out here in America. We'll supply the intelligence for that round. Don't worry about it.
But I think if memory serves me right, next year in the Champions League, the teams that finish in the top 8 of this table will go directly through to the round of 16, and then teams 9 through 24 will play off to find out who joins them in the last 16. The last 16, not round of 16. And then the bottom 8 would be out. So it's not, or bottom 9 or whatever it would be, with 36 teams. The bottom 9 would be out, but it's slightly confusing because no one really knows how they're going to decide who plays who. I know that they've done this kind of Swiss model with chess and other things that clearly won't work with football, but I guess we'll see. But it means more games, which obviously more games equals more money, so the teams are happy. But it's like it's all about money, isn't it? Like, none of this is an improvement to football, I don't think. I mean, I will say, sorry, Jack, go on before I hog the show for the next few minutes.
But that's all fixed with the Club World Cup that FIFA's running.
It's to another 32-team tournament that they want to start. Is that 25?
In the summer.
Yeah, in the summer, quite.
Yeah.
No, I understand that everyone wants to make money, but like I personally have no interest in the Champions League until maybe the quarterfinals. I don't watch the group stage because we pretty much know. Like, I mean, it's weird that you say this, like, because I think we all believe that we know who's going to make it through. And it changes a lot. The teams that make the last 16 do change quite often. It's not the same teams you would expect. You get 4 or 5 teams that are in it every time. But if you think about it, like Liverpool made it last year, but they're not in the competition this year. Chelsea won it a few years ago. They're not in it. So even within England, there is churn about which teams can make it through to the knockout stages. It's only really, I think, Man City, PSG, Bayern, Inter, and Real Madrid. They're the 5 that make it every year. But everyone else, I think in the last years, has only made it twice out of 3 at best. But yeah, it's just like if they want to make it, if they want to.
Actually, I think Dortmund's in that group.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, it's just odd. Like the Champions League, as it is now, as it is currently, is probably better than the knockout stage of European Cup that I grew up with when I was a teenager. I would agree that it's fun to see more games, right? However, I don't care. Like I didn't watch. I mean, seriously, when it comes to group stage Champions League football, I don't watch it. I don't know if anyone else is the same, but I don't watch it. I've got no, and maybe they don't care that I don't watch it because they want people in China to watch it and they want people in other markets to watch it. But I have no interest because unless I feel like it's a meaningful knockout game, I don't really want to watch it.
It's a bit like a tennis Grand Slam tennis tournament where the opening rounds are really boring because all the good players get through, and it's the usual ones end up in quarterfinals going onwards. And it's the same here. You know, I enjoyed it when it was a 2-legged European Cup because it's cup competition, best leagues and the best clubs in the leagues. But obviously the Premier League and the Champions League as it is now, I mean, they were kind of breakaways because the bigger clubs wanted more slice of the pie. And then the other thing's obviously going to be around the television rights or what we now would call the media rights and things like that, because I think the clubs really want to have their own kind of channels and show their own content and charge. That's where they want to go with that.
But this is the funny thing. Like if they came out and said, I mean, the important thing is that they're now able to do that. I mean, I think that's not a bad idea. The idea that the clubs, in theory, could get together and say, we don't need UEFA. We can organise it amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
And the redistribution of money will be different. Now, different in a good way or different in a bad way, I guess depends on which team you support, but you could make it different. And so I read somewhere that like UEFA keep like 80% of the proceeds from this to then share it in the ways, however they share it. Whereas the clubs will say, hang on a second, we want more than just 20%. Like of all the money it brings in, we deserve, like we can decide what to do with our money, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so I don't mind that. But if they just said, hey, we're going to do basically the same that currently exists, only we will decide where the money goes, fans might support it. But it's only about making sure that certain teams always are pretty much guaranteed one of those 2 top competitions. And I'm not being funny, but for most of the clubs that are looking to do this, they're always in one of the top 2 competitions every year. I mean, like Spurs aren't in Europe this year, but it's 1 year out of how many now that we haven't been in it? The first year in how many years? 15? Something like that.
It was Harry, wasn't it? It was Harry's second season, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Redknapp, yeah.
If that's 15 years we've had European football, I mean, even the Conference League was only 1 year. So 14 out of 15 years we've been in the best 2 competitions, right? And I can't think, Chelsea might have missed 2 or 3 of those 15. And Liverpool might have missed 1 out of those 15. Like, the teams that are the teams that never miss it. Because Real Madrid never miss Europe. Barcelona never miss Europe of any kind. So it's all about what share they're getting. And the idea that it's going to somehow make football more fair or lessen the gap between the Premier League and the rest, it's nonsense. People go and play for Barcelona because they want to live in the sunshine. People don't go to Manchester because they don't want to live in Manchester. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like that's not going to change. I don't know. It just seems that I can understand the clubs wanting more say in what happens with the money that, in theory, they earn. But to have it so that the rich teams can just guarantee they're going to have the money, no, I don't like that.
Yeah, and Well, look, it's less. I mean, I didn't go through the competition details because I don't really care. You're years away from a forming of a super league anyway. I mean, it's that there's way too many fights that have got to be waged before you actually form this. I mean, the governments are involved at this point. So, and when I look at the battle between basically Juventus, Real Madrid, and Barcelona versus UEFA and FIFA, I mean, that's basically what we were looking at, right? A court case that had those three clubs challenging the system. It kind of makes me feel like when I watch Arsenal play Chelsea because I'm rooting for the sinkhole. I want everybody to lose, right? But I will say the only positive I get out of this.
Sorry, I'm just watching HG's eyes pop out of his head.
Is that really the score?
Cameron Archer has just scored in the 87th minute.
Oh, it had to be Archer. Brilliant.
Holy crap. That's brilliant. It's not helping my prediction league in the Patreon, but it is a brilliant result so far because Bailey had one chalked off about 30 minutes ago. So, but I mean, the only thing I'll say the positive about this is that UEFA and FIFA are run by criminals, crooks, and horrible people. And anything that anybody who's willing to take up the mantle and challenge their control of club football, I'm all for. Now, I hate rooting for Perez, Florian Perez at Real Madrid. There's no love, lost there. But I mean, the idea that this whole system is controlled by self-appointed, unregulated individuals in Switzerland or UEFA, I'm all for anything that disrupts that. I'm not sure the outcome, I don't want to be like an arsonist or some sort of, burn it all down and see what happens. But I'm not unhappy that they lost the case because in America we have monopolies, right? And we've actually carved out specifically in law antitrust exemptions. So baseball and the NFL, that sort of stuff, you can't form a real serious competition because we've actually said, you know what, we want to give a monopoly business because we think it's best for competition. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't really care. But we actually carved out of law. It hasn't been done in Europe. Evidently, the Court of Justice says, I mean, they're actually operating, an illegal monopoly. So, Oh, that's brilliant. So, I mean, I'm actually kind of happy that they lost this case. I'm just not sure where it's going because I think the Super League competition is ridiculous. And you're right. It's all about the money. It's always about the money. It's always going to be about the money. And we're not going to change that, unfortunately. But I'm kind of happy that they actually, that UEFA lost this case. I just don't know where it's going to go from here.
So I think there's a couple of things that I think. So one's obviously an outlandish comment is that if there's if they change it as a Super League or anything like that, I reckon there'll be Saudi Arabian teams in European club competition 3 to 4 to 5 years' time. And then if you look at the ownership of the Premier League now, and who owns those clubs, how many US owners have we got now?
Almost half.
Yeah. So you've got almost half. And then they are from the concept of what you talked about with monopolies and, not having promotion and relegation and things like that. So you've got almost half as US owners. Then you've got at least 2 sports washers, state owned, and then you've got Todibo. So the reality of the situation is that as we go along, and you might get probably further foreign ownership in the Premier League, then the vested interest and the interest is very much going to be around a Super League, and where it's harder to get in and out, and there's a set clubs. That's just the way it's going to be, and I think that's the way we're going. As however unpalatable it is,
I agree with you 100%.
However unpalatable it is, and whatever our lived experiences were when we started going to football and things like that, the reality of the situation is this is where we are going, because there will be a club competition during the week where it's going to be, beamed around the world, and this, that, and the other, and about global branding. That's where we're going, unfortunately.
And it's the Premier League's fault. I mean, it really is the Premier League's fault. I mean, that breakaway, that was the first breakaway. So I blame all of you, not me, all of you there in this thing, because it is the Premier League and the unbelievable, astonishing amount of money that they racked up in the foreign broadcasting. They got into it so early, and everyone else in Europe's trying to catch up. And this is the response. This is the response because, Real Madrid and Barcelona are saying we're never going to close the gap. I mean, I think HG posted something in our chat about the gap of revenue, and it won't be closed. There's such embedded institutional advantages because Premier League is broadcast in English that the other leagues can never, ever catch up to. This is the response.
But it's not a response because we're part of it. Like, all it's going to do is mean that these clubs get more money, but the gap's not going to get closer.
No.
Like, Real Madrid and Barcelona aren't going to get closer to the money that the Premier League has. They'll just be getting more money, and so will those Premier League teams that are involved. Like,
surely,
possibly, yes, I understand your point.
Surely the Premier League is going to get more. Like you mentioned, Newcastle and Villa. They're going to prefer Newcastle and Villa in this Super League than Karabag or or Mulder, because Norwegian Mulder aren't going to bring in the viewing figures that Villa or Newcastle will. So we're going to end up more and more Premier League teams in there than you will Spanish teams, for example, because ultimately people want to watch Barca, Real, maybe Atletico. There's a big disparity there because the Premier League's so big.
And so what it would do then is make the Premier League even more of a closed shop than it currently is, where suddenly you'll have 8 teams getting loads of money rather than 7 or 9 or however you want to do it. They get all these teams that would be involved. Because, I think when you base it on revenue, 11 of the top 20 are in the Premier League because our TV deals are so strong that in some cases our TV deal earns more money than some clubs, right? A lot of clubs based on that. So it just seems like if they'd come out and said, hey, we're going to have a 64-team competition, right? We're going to do away with the Conference League. We're going to have 64 teams and we're going to have, 16 groups of 4.
Yeah.
Right? And just said, anyone can play anyone. Like that would make it a bit more interesting, possibly, maybe. I don't know. But what they want to do, they want to see Real Madrid versus Barcelona 2 times a year. And I don't want to, the days of Messi Ronaldo, when I used to watch that game, I used to sit down and I actually wanted to watch it because they were the best 2 teams in the world, really, as well.
Yeah.
I don't watch El Clasico now. I've got no interest in El Clasico. I might want to see Bellingham play, but I don't. I mean, I think Bellingham's a wonderful player, but I don't watch Real Madrid games because he's there. I've got no interest. Like Messi versus Ronaldo had that almost personal element where you knew these 2 were the best 2 by a country mile. And so it was, good versus evil, however you wanted to describe it, you could have that. Now, I don't watch AC Milan versus Inter Milan either. I don't watch Dortmund versus. I might watch Dortmund versus Bayern, but I mean Dortmund aren't the second best team in Germany right now, and I don't want to watch Leverkusen versus Bayern. Not really. So it just feels like I think they must be appealing to, and I've heard this from other people that kids nowadays they want shirts of their favorite players. Yeah. They don't necessarily care about the teams as much.
That's right.
And they can have a Messi shirt, and they can. I mean, not no. You can have a Haaland shirt, and you can have a Mbappe shirt, and you can have a Kane shirt, or whoever it might be.
Yeah.
And it's less like I have my team domestically, but in Europe, I just want to see the best players, and I don't want to see the best players. I mean, that's the thing. I don't. I'd be quite happy to watch them at the Euros and the World Cup, and leave it at that.
Yeah,
I think Adrian makes a good point that I had up a second ago, which is the Premier League. It'll be interesting because the Premier League will dictate whether the Super League happens or not. Between the clubs and if this, I mean, again, you guys would be more attuned to this independent regulator than I would be because I just don't follow the day in day out. But it sounds like, I mean, if it appears in the King's Speech, I guess it's happening. But you guys can tell me that or not. But I mean. It will be interesting because there is no Super League without the Premier League teams. Period. It doesn't exist. There's no money in it. Nobody cares. To your point, you're not going to get the sponsors coming in. So it'll be interesting to see if those clubs or the Premier League, however it's governed, decide, okay, we don't need the Super League. We're so far in front that we don't need to subsidize the continent by playing in that competition because they could kill it all on their own.
There's 81 of you watching. There's only 30 likes I've just noticed. So please do click the like button. It doesn't cost you anything. helps get Caller off our back, even though he's busy at work, stacking shelves or something, or playing Football Manager. I don't know what he does. Steve Diver says he's never known a man on his phone more than. But anyway,
says Steve Diver's on his phone the whole time during the game. But there you go.
And he's at the game as well. That's the thing.
That's right. Well, I know. That's what I mean.
We get more photos of his food and his drink than we do the game.
Correct.
Yeah, Mr. Levy needs his Christmas present after all, so Steve's got to sort this out.
But I mean, I don't want to talk about the Super League much longer because it's been 25 minutes already. But
yeah, we have gone way long.
The idea is, if people don't want to watch it, it won't work, right? Like, we do have some say in this. Yeah. Or is it just going to happen? And deep down, we're going to be like, well, I don't want to watch another Dad's Army repeat. I guess I'll watch the football. Like, is that what we're at? I just...
Who do you think you're kidding, Mr.
Oh, Villa have equalised.
Well,
of course they did. They got 9 minutes.
Yeah. Zaniolo.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, what you're saying is if people don't like it, then people won't turn up to the stadiums, right? And obviously the match day revenue will be down. But that could be offset against the TV media rights that they're going to get anyway. And that may not necessarily matter, as awful as that sounds. And then you've got your branding around the world, etc., etc. So you may be in a situation, that's what it is.
And I guess a big part of it is that it's allegedly going to be free, right?
Yes.
So we can all log on to this one particular website wherever we are in the world and be able to watch it. I mean, what in with no commentary, with commentary in 15 different languages? I mean, there's so many questions that it's just like, I don't know. I can understand them fiddling with the Champions League a little bit, like they have, because they wanted to keep the clubs happy, right? But again, the bigger clubs happy. Like it's like no one else is really calling for it. Yeah, Dad's Army. The only thing that's ever on TV in England, seemingly, is all I remember watching. Flipping repeats of that awful show.
You mean you weren't? Surely Porridge was on. I mean, surely that's apt for the poster there. Anyway.
Stanley Fletcher,
actually, you've mentioned commentary. You just after some extra work. Know how you loved your Bundesliga 3.
Why not?
Division stuff.
But it just it's not better than what we currently have for anyone apart from the richest. Well, no, it's not even the richest teams. That's the thing.
No, it's about other people wanting to take money from UEFA. I mean, in this country for a long time, U.S. Soccer had a gig where you hosted any sanctioned FIFA event, and U.S. Soccer took 20% of the gross, not the net, 20% of the gross, right?
Yeah.
Try to make money doing that. It's about the money, moron. I'm sorry. It is.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's just rich people fighting over the fact that I'm sitting here in North Carolina and I'm spending $300 a year, whatever it is, on streaming fees to watch what I want to watch. And there's another, billion of me around the world paying $300 US, right? So that's, $300 billion. And it's just a scrap over those dollars. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I think there's two things here. One is we've got a lot of players out injured, and so have most Premier League clubs at the moment. Like you said, with the World Club Championship, Euros, the World Cup, everything building up. Are we going to need bigger squads? What's going to happen? More and more games.
Quality of football will drop.
Yeah,
you're getting more ACLs now as well.
Yeah. Is that partially down to the pitches as well? Do you think? Like with the different the plastic weaves they put in it, maybe.
Kevin De Bruyne is not on the field. Why? Why is he not playing football right now? It's because too many flipping games for a lot of players. Not everyone can handle it. And so you're going to see squad players playing more games. The quality is going to go down, and eventually you're going to have a watering down of the product that people like you're saying, I don't even watch the group stages. Like every once in a while you get a group like, what was it? Newcastle's group with PSG. And I mean, that was a phenomenal group, right? That was actually probably good football. Maybe I didn't see a single game, but I mean, but that's what the Super League wants to have in all of it, I guess. I don't really understand it, but again, there's a finite pool player, and the more games you have, you're going to have bigger squads, like you're saying, and you're going to have you're going to have more Eric Lamelas playing game time, right?
You end up almost having like farm teams. Like it'd be like baseball, where you'd have like your big, I don't know how many baseball teams there are, but let's say you've got your big 32 teams, and then the clubs that are connected with them will have separate names, but everyone knows that they're part of the same system. And if that's where it's going, then I'm not anti-progress. I'm not anti something different, but it has to be better. Right? Like I feel like it feels like this is like football's version of Brexit almost, right? Where like we can do something different, and we're not really going to tell you what, but like it's going to be different, it's going to be better, it's going to be free and fair, and then that's all I'm going to say on that. But it feels like that, right?
Yeah.
Would the only other thing be that maybe this has kicked you over up the backside a little bit?
I
maybe.
agree. They have a threat now. They don't have they have now been challenged and defeated legally, and we're going to see what the response is. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Shall we do our Dave's favourite section, our predictions of the Premier League games for the weekend? We'll skirt through these. So lunchtime kickoff tomorrow. West Ham against Manchester United. Dave,
the Paul Ince derby. I'm going 1-1.
Jack.
Yeah, this is an impossible game to pick. I avoided this in our Pick'em League in our Patreon group. I'll take the home team. I don't know why. 2-1.
Yeah, I agree with Jack. I was thinking 2-1 West Ham. Like Man United win games they shouldn't, but I think West Ham are better than Man United. So 2-1 West Ham.
I think I'm going to go 1-0. Jared Bowen to score. Got a few comments. Adrian's gone 1-1. King's gone for Desmond. 1-1, and Kerry's gone 2-0. So Fulham Burnley. I will kick off. I'm going to go 4-0 to Fulham, so they won't keep their 5-0 run going. HG?
Yeah, Fulham will win. I think they're better, so they should.
As is a tradition, when I'm on each week, we do this 3-0 Fulham. Vinicius hat trick from 2 yards.
3-1 Fulham.
Okay. And Luton Newcastle. Oh, tough call. Good news about Lockyer, isn't it? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Lockyer,
Great news that he seems to be up and about and has recovered. Hopefully they can sort him out long term. Whether he'll be able to play again, I don't know, because obviously the second time he's had an issue. But great news that he was able to. He came round before they left the stadium. So there'll be quite an atmosphere there at Luton. They've had some good performances at home recently. Newcastle, a lot of injuries. I'll go 2-1 Luton. HG?
I want it to be a Luton home win, but whatever is best for Spurs never happens. So Newcastle will win.
With Jack.
I'm with you, John. They're going to rise up for their captain, and I actually picked Luton to take this game because Newcastle had the midweek game as well. I think they play well at home. I think they might actually eke out a result here.
I think Newcastle will win 2-0, and then Amanda Stavley will go to Caesars Palace Luton to celebrate after.
Nottingham Forest. Now, let's discuss Nottingham Forest. Correct decision. Steve Cooper sacked. Mr. Beardy, arms crossed, Nuno in. What do you think, HG?
I think that the owner will do whatever he wants to do whenever he wants to do it. So if you're watching Mr. Marinakis, yes, it was the correct decision. I mean, Nuno's not a bad manager. There's this idea that what he did at Spurs means he's awful, but to get Wolves to where he got them, he's not a bad manager. But yeah, like I don't. No one really wanted it at Forest to happen, so I don't know. But yeah, I think Forest will lose that game. I think Bournemouth are on a good run; they'll win there.
Jack?
Yeah, I think. Go on. Sorry, Jack.
Go on, Dave.
No, you go.
Go, Dave. Dave, go.
I think Nuno. I think It's a bit of a lot of people just slag him off. I mean, he was in charge for for 10 games or something like that.
10 league games.
Yeah, he was on an absolute losing wicket from the start, wasn't he? You know, I mean, all this business about we're going to get a manager with our DNA, everyone turned us down, including Conte first time. And that window, he gets the likes of Royale, Hill, and Romero, who then toddles off to Argentina, and that's going to COVID, whatever. He had a disgruntled Kane. So I felt sorry for Nuno, actually. And I think that you can't underestimate the work he did. He had 2 7-play finishes for Wolves. He did a good job there. And he got them European football. I think he got to the quarterfinals of Europa. But saying all that, Bournemouth are in good form at the moment. I'm going 2-1 Bournemouth. Aurier will get a goal.
Jack?
I will definitely take Bournemouth in this match. Nottingham Forest just fired a very popular manager. I have 2 words for you. Marinakis out.
Right.
Do you think there's a Nottingham Forest fan who's like Dave?
What do you mean?
I promise you there are several.
What do you mean? No, I'll tell you, lovely. There's a lovely stadium on the River Trent. I've been up there. Beautiful. Really nice. Nottingham, great city.
Good. Think it's interesting because obviously Nuno did well at Wolves playing his back 3 or back 5, and then he struggled in that last season playing a back 4. And with Spurs, he only really played a back 4, except at the Passos de Ferreira game, he went with back 3, didn't he? But played the reserves. So Forest just started playing with the back 3 away at Wolves appropriately, and then played against us. Be interesting to see if Nuno keeps the back 3 or goes to 4. I think if he keeps the back 3, they'll win. If he goes to a 4, they might lose. Bournemouth won their 3-2 last year from being 2-0 down, I seem to remember. So, yeah. So, depends if he goes back for 3 or 4. That's my answer. Liverpool, Arsenal. Ooh, we're all going to be supporting Klopp on this one, aren't we? HG.
Yes, and I think that Liverpool will win, I think, hopefully by for a few. So 3-0.
Oh, that would be so lovely.
I just think, Liverpool, like Arsenal might have a better 11, maybe, but Liverpool, when they get going, I think they will. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the famous Anfield crowd, but under the lights just before Christmas, Liverpool will be up for it. They know, Liverpool fans know it's a massive game. Right, they're not going to show up expecting to win. They're not going to show up expecting to watch a show. They recognise that Arsenal are an extremely good side, and probably these are the best 2 teams in the country right now. So it will be a big thing, and I don't know if Arsenal will be able to handle it. So yeah, Liverpool to win.
I'd so want to see Arteta crumble and have I would love to see an equalizer chalked off in the 97th for Arsenal and watch Arteta melt down in a press conference. It would just be, God, that would be so lovely. I absolutely believe Liverpool wins this game. I don't see how if Arsenal wins this game, it's going to make for a very depressing day. That's all I got to say, because that would be a massive, massive victory. Yeah. So I gotta, my heart and my head's going with Liverpool here. 2-1.
I think it's going to be 2-2, and both managers are going to get themselves in such a frothy state that they're both going to spontaneously combust on the sidelines.
I can get behind that.
It's a tough one, isn't it? I do think Liverpool do seem to be getting a lot of VAR rub of the green at the moment since the game at Tottenham.
Funny that.
Yeah, odd that, isn't it? I think there were goals in it. 3-2 to Liverpool. Although I do prefer Wilton's 3-0 much more.
I'd love to see a 7-0 a la Manchester United last year. I would record it and rewatch it. I don't even like Liverpool, of course, but man, that would be sweet.
I will watch this game. It's not a Champions League game. I am excited.
Absolutely.
I've already told my wife.
Will watch this game.
I've already told my wife, you've lost me for 5 hours tomorrow because I'm watching Spurs at 4 and then Liverpool straight after. Yep. And sorry, but you've got me for Christmas, so that's fine. But it should be a fantastic game of football. But I hope Liverpool wipe the floor with them.
And she's lucky to have you, HG. Just want to say.
The luckiest woman in Austria, yeah?
Absolutely.
The The luckiest American living in Austria, married to an English bloke.
There's a few. So
Who works
be
part
more
time
than-
and supports a family of 3 in the greatest city on earth. I mean, what more can you possibly want?
And support Spurs.
There you go.
We'll get there eventually. Big shout out to Jeff for the super chat. VAR man of the match, not in a good way. Yes, there's a very good chance. A lot of these big games are being ruined by VAR and the mismanagement of VAR. That's what I'd say. I don't think VAR the problem. I think it's the way it's implemented and managed.
Can I ask a stupid question
about it?
Can I ask a stupid question? What currency? CA dollars.
Canada, isn't it?
I'd
Yes.
imagine so.
Canadian dollars?
I told you a stupid question.
At least you know it.
If
Great
he turns
city,
around,
though.
if he turns around and says he's in, if he turns around and says he's in Camden and he's got his own currency, that wasn't a stupid question.
And I should have said greatest city in Europe, not the world. I apologize.
Indeed.
I'm going to Brighton Thursday. Me and the boy James give me the away end at Spurs.
Nice.
And then I'm also doing my first marathon in Brighton in April. So marathon running has started this week.
Another marathon.
My first marathon.
Yeah,
Not
first.
another one.
No,
Is
this
it?
is first.
You're-
Yeah,
You're
I've
right.
never run more than 15 miles currently.
right. He's done a half.
So I've got a lot of training to do.
All right.
So I've done 25 miles as a total this week, and I've got a long one. I'm gonna do a park run tomorrow morning and a long run on Sunday as well.
Okay. I had a McDonald's this week, and
I gave my prediction, didn't I? So Wolves, Chelsea. I know Adrian went very early with this back in the comments. I can't even see it now. HG, while I'm looking at that, do you want to give your Wolves, Chelsea?
I think Chelsea will win because it's going to annoy me.
There we go. Jack?
The problem with this is, I didn't put this. I didn't pick this game in our Patreon chat because I don't know who's going to show up for Chelsea. I just don't have. There's no way. There's no consistency in that squad. They should, on paper, we all know they're better. They should win, but going to Wolves is a terrible place to play for a lot of people. I don't know what the weather is going to be like, but I'll take a 1-1 draw just because, 0-0 because Chelsea can't find a goal.
I think the striker Nkuku is back, isn't he? Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Well, he's only played a few minutes, so.
Okay. Dave?
I think it'll be 1-0 Wolves.
Yeah, I'll go 1-0 Wolves as well on that one. Adrian, there's absolutely no chance James will be awake as early as I need to be in Brighton on that Sunday, unless he's still there from the night before.
Which is possible.
A whole different thing.
Maybe we can see you. Like, will you finish the marathon before James gets home from the previous night? That's a race.
That's a good question.
Do you know what? I don't even know what time it starts. If it's a 9 or 10 o'clock start. Yeah. So 4 hours roughly. So, probably 1, 2 o'clock, depending on what time it starts. By the way, guys, you're asking if you're correct about Everton formation. Milenko is likely back, so it'll be a back 4. But if he isn't healthy, McNeil will play right wing back. There you go. Thanks, James.
Right. There you go.
James.
Smartest audience in YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. King Hall saying Chavsky could get it done. I think they could. It could go either way, that game. If Wolves are really on it, we should have beaten Wolves. Ultimately, we should have beaten them easily. I'm glad you brought this comment from the beginning of the show back, Dave. So, shall we? Really important question, HG. Have you got snow?
No, not even. We had loads at the beginning of the month, but we've had nothing for ages, and we don't usually get it. So no.
Yeah. Okay. Perhaps Davo could do the pub crawl. I think he's been to the pub plenty this week, Adrian, to make up for it.
Yeah.
Just got home, hasn't he, Davo, to do the show?
I couldn't do 3 nights running. I'm old.
So I think this was yesterday. Charlie Eccleshare tweeted about our transfer targets for January. Centre back priority. Go figure. Todibo, Dragusin, Tosin, and Kelly all on the list. Will move for Gallagher if Chelsea are willing to sell. Jota an option. Tony seen as unlikely. We've also been linked with a couple of youngsters. But as far as Todibo, there was a suggestion that Nice wouldn't sell to us because Jim Ratcliffe owns Nice, and obviously he's currently in the process of buying 25% of Manchester United and will take football control of Manchester United, but that's going to take a few more weeks. So for 35 million euros, I believe, is the suggested price, HG. What do you know about this French international?
That he spent most of his early years moving around Europe playing for different teams. I think he was at Barcelona for a bit. He got loaned to Germany for a bit, and it was one of those, like, everyone wanted him because they saw that there was a talent, but he hadn't really found a home. So maybe Spurs will be that home. It kind of reminds me of Luca Dean, was also one of those young Frenchmen who went around Europe, played in Barcelona, played in I think at Roma before he ended up finding a home at Everton, weirdly. But I don't know too much about him as a player, but 30 million for a guy with apparently the level of talent that he has, playing for the French national team. I think he's played a couple of games for them recently. I guess that's what Spurs will be looking to do if they can. But whether he fits us, I think he got sent off a couple of games ago, so missed the last game. So he fits us in that way. But we need a centre back, and if it's 30 million or 5 million on Lloyd Kelly or whatever ends up being, like we do need some numbers.
Yeah. I know, Jack, you need to nip off soon. You got any comments on any of the?
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen Todibo him play, so I don't have any insight. I have read quite a bit of people I think are reasonable evaluation of talent and how they describe how he plays. So I'm all in favor. If it doesn't seem like the price of 35 million is at all unreasonable. Nice, if they're even entertaining a sale when they're second in the table, tells you, well, that's fair, tells you all you need to know, that there's still massive amounts of pain being felt across the continent. A lot of clubs that are crash strapped. So, I mean, I'm the way he plays, the way he's been described as the type of player, I trust let me rephrase that. I'm trying to trust the current setup of the structure we put in place with the current manager and the people evaluating talent, that if they think he's the right person, they haven't really had a bad miss. I mean, really, since Paratici came in, we haven't had a lot of bad misses.
We do
one. Sorry, are you saying since Paratici we've not had any misses?
I did not say that at all. You clearly know I didn't say that. I said we haven't had many. We've had really good hits. I mean, just looking at young players like Sarr and Udogie, getting them in early before the rest of Europe comes around to them. If we identify good talent, and this is one of them, I'm all in favor of it. I don't feel we need to have proven players that have played in the Premier League and all that garbage, because, again, if you find a Van de Ven, they come straight into the team, have no problem. If he's that caliber of player, then bring him in. I don't care what the price is. I mean, but again, I have not watched him play. I have no personal opinion. But yes, they will have to sign a center back. If they don't, then I'll join. I'll get my purple and gold scarf, Dave, and I'll join you on the bandwagon. I promise.
Look, Ange has made it very clear, mate, that he wants signings done early, mate. And so let's see what our new current setup, which is newer than the last current setup, will come up with for January. That's
okay, guys. I'm going to ask a quick question then. Will we sign a player who can play in the first team before we play Manchester United on the 14th of January and we play Burnley on the 5th of January in the Cup? Will we sign any first team players before either of those games?
No on Burnley, yes on Manchester United.
Agreed.
She agrees.
Yeah.
Who's our last game of the month?
Brentford
on the 31st.
So just after that half time at Brentford, Paul Coity, the Coister, will bring out the new signing. Longley will be back. That's what will happen. No, I think actually I agree. I think Burnley no, but by United mid-month. He said
14th.
We need a centre back first and foremost.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Kerry's saying we've had these hints from other managers in conferences, so not convinced Levy will do it. Obviously, there's a whole new structure at the club, isn't there? And Ange is definitely seems to be progressing, seems to have more control than the previous managers. Is the impression that I get, HG. I don't know what you think. Definitely more input.
I don't know about control. Like as much as Ange talks, like he knows what to say and what not to say. But I just it wouldn't surprise me if Spurs came out and actually literally had it organised on the 29th and came out and said that the guy was going to sign on January the 1st. That wouldn't surprise me either, but I'm not expecting it. And I feel like a year ago, I wouldn't have even thought it was possible. I wouldn't have thought that we were ready to even think about doing these things. But we've got 3 games between now and the end of the year, and anything can happen in those 3 games. Like if we lose another defender to injury, it had better be organised. We like if Davies is officially the 4th choice centre back and Phillips is therefore the 5th choice centre back, like so that we're looking for this new third choice. Well, it's like why did we buy Phillips then? Really, to be 5th choice? That seems a bit silly either. So like it feels like if Phillips is fit for the Burnley game, I suspect he might start it. That's the best time for him to come and do it. But it's
he's in the squad potentially tomorrow, and so he's fit to be picked. But good news, Mickey van der Ven was fit to throw some darts at Ali Pali tonight. Dave's delighted by this, I believe.
Fantastic news. His hammy's holding up well to do that. It's good news. But the reality, just on the point about the transfer window, obviously this time last year you had a manager who's becoming increasingly unhappy, who wasn't signing a new contract, right? And you contrast it now. We've got a manager who's happy to be there, who has defied the odds. A lot of snobbery about an Australian coming in to manage. People think it's going to be an absolute disaster. There's a lot of upside now for Ange, really, because he's proved he's not been a complete mug disaster in the Premier League, and he's working for Levy. If he gets us in the Europa and a decent cup run, and he enhances his reputation, there's nothing to stop anyone, a bigger club, coming to look at him in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, but again, if they come in from in a couple of years' time, it's because we've been good, which is what we want, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. But if he's been,
Dave, let me interrupt you real quick. I want to say happy Christmas, Merry Christmas to everyone who celebrates the holiday. I do have to run, unfortunately, because I got a long road to hoe on the highway here and get somewhere by 6. So I want to just say, hey, really enjoyed the year. Thank you so much for having me on this show. Everyone to the Cheese Room, have a great holiday. Thanks so much. I got to go.
Thanks, Jack. It's been great this year. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
There we go. So we'll quickly discuss a couple of the youngsters we've been linked with. Rooney. Oh, where are we going with this surname? Budgie? What do you reckon,
AC? Why not? He'll be known as Rooney, surely. Like Brian is Brian and not Hill.
Yeah.
Talented, extremely talented. Everyone seems to want him. There was a picture going around of him in a Spurs shirt a few years ago when he was a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, all I've seen of him is him score against Man United, and is that a sign of greatness right now? Maybe not. I don't know. but obviously, it feels like Udogie, and it feels like Sarr. It feels like Spurs getting in ahead while they can, and maybe he will be contributing next season. But I don't think it's going to be something for we might sign him in January, and he might be at Spurs in January, but I don't think we can really expect to see too much of him in a Spurs shirt until next season.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, obviously, I'm always a pinch of salt with YouTube compilations because Didier Zakora looked like a world beater that time I saw him. So he's a left.
Was YouTube around when we signed Didier Zakora?
Yes, mate. Yeah, I'm sure we can.
Maybe not in Australia, but for the rest of the world, sure.
Yeah, he's a left-footed number 10, can play off the right. So almost maybe if Kulu moves in the middle, he could be an understudy to Kulu play on the right as well, especially if Brian Hill goes. I'm just thinking the picture I've put on the right-hand side looks a little bit like it's come from FIFA, but it generally is a photo of him. It's not one of those made-up ones. So there's his stats. He's obviously he plays for Copenhagen in the Superliga. So, the level is hard to judge where he's got 7 goals in 17 games. 1 goal in the Champions League, obviously against United. So it's tough to compare. Daniel makes a good point that Ndobele looked amazing on YouTube. I mean, that's because he's a skillful player. It just doesn't show what your attitude's like, does it?
Yeah, sometimes we look impressive on YouTube as well. You just don't know.
Always, Dave.
There's a video of Dave somewhere out the internet that none of us know about, clearly. But
Well, yeah.
And then Fabrizio linking us with Stanis Idumbo Muzambo. Apparently, Spurs and among six clubs showing interest in this talented youngster who will be available to sign for next season. But he can do a pre-contract in January. Know anything about him, HG?
Yeah, I know that he's never been on the bench for Ajax's first team, and like this is Ajax's worst season. I mean, they lost to an amateur side in the Dutch Cup. I was like, what's the opposite of professional? It's not unprofessional.
They turned up late and everything.
Seriously. But yeah, no, they lost to a pub team basically in the Dutch Cup 2 nights ago. It's a terrible season for him. If he's not, I mean, it sounds awful, but if he's not really anywhere near it, yeah, like if we like him, then we like him. But we can't expect much from these youngsters in the next year. Like you'd have to think that they will take time and hopefully prove themselves somewhere else first. Just like Sarr did. I mean, Sarr was at the club for 2 seasons before he ever really got noticed or got a chance in the first team. Playing for Conte, he was always the obvious one to take out if things didn't work out, regardless of how well he played. So, like this Rooney kid obviously has a better pedigree, but we know nothing about the Ajax guy to know really whether he's good or bad. So you just have to hope that that he will become the player that we want him to be.
And once again, we know that you're asked the questions about the obscure European talent.
Yeah, you're going to get the obscure Australian talent, Dave, that you will know nothing about. So we'll have to get JP in. If we're talking about Calvin Phillips and Conor Gallagher, no thanks. I'd rather go for the 18-year-old central midfielder Arthur Vermeeren from Royal Antwerp. The kid is an absolute baller. Know anything about him, HG?
Yeah, no, I agree. Go on, Dave, go.
If we sign him, I don't reckon we've ever had someone called Arthur playing for. Arthur Rowe. Sorry, my bad. Carry on. You go.
Yeah, I'm excited if Lloyd Kelly signs for the same reason.
There we go.
But, I don't think we've had a Lloyd.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you. Let's talk about Conor Gallagher because we're being heavily linked with him. A lot of people are very underwhelmed by this signing. But is it because his attributes fit Ange's system, HG?
What, as to why I don't rate him?
No, as to why we are being heavily linked with him.
I think Ange has probably made it clear. I mean, like, there's no smoke without fire, right? So if they've heard that we wanted to sign him in the summer, they're going to assume that we still want to sign him now. I don't see it. I mean, like, he would do the role that Sarr does, and Sarr's only really been playing because Bellingham has not been fit, you'd think, right? So it strikes me as, okay, yeah, we need homegrown players. Gallagher fits, but Gallagher plays every week for Chelsea. He's 18 months left on his deal. Pochettino clearly wants him around. Like, even if Chelsea said, yes, we want to sell him in January, they'll want silly money. I just don't see it happening. I do not see Spurs spending, 50, 60 million on Gallagher, because that's what Chelsea would want, right? We're not going to spend that money in January to get him when we don't need, we need a midfielder for 3 games in January. But that's about it. Like, we're not really looking to replace too many, and he's not going to replace what Lo Celso does. He can't do what Maddison does, and Kulusevski would do that anyway. So he's just a runner. I don't see what it is with Conor Gallagher at all. But I guess his stats must be good.
Dave, Gallagher or Skip?
Oh, blimey. I just can't see it happening. I really can't, given the history between the 2 clubs. Pochettino's been making him captain, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I can't see it at all. I really can't. And is it a pressing need to get him in? No, it's not. We've got other pressing needs, so I really can't see it.
If we were looking at other woeful mid-table clubs, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get one of their more important players in January when they don't need to sell, and it just wouldn't happen. Apparently Gallagher comes from a family of Chelsea fans. So to me, if I'm going to leave Chelsea, I'm not going to join Spurs. Right? I'm just not like, and it's not because Chelsea hate Spurs. It's because Spurs don't win anything. So what? Like you're going to have like if Conor Gallagher ends up being on a free transfer at some point, so many clubs will want him. That Spurs would not be at the top of that list either. I just don't see Gallagher ever choosing Spurs. You look at the Chelsea players that have been shunted out in the last 6 months. Some of them have gone to Italy. I mean, 3 of them are at AC Milan. You think Gallagher's going to choose Spurs over AC Milan? I don't think he would. I think he'd choose AC. If I was in his position, I'd choose AC Milan over Chelsea, regardless if Chelsea were winning things. So it seems like the world's worst pipe dream.
I mean, he also has to look at Mason Mount and how he's gone so far at Man United. He's just not suited their system. He's not playing well.
No.
So I mean, is it 6 months left on his contract?
No,
Has he got another
18.
Year?
It's a year and a half.
It's not happening.
No,
it's not happening.
Even if Chelsea want to sell him, they're not going to sell him for 10 bob.
No,
like they'll want a huge amount of money because it helps them out with FFP. We don't have a huge amount of money, and if we do, we're not spending it on a central midfielder who is not better than what we already have. No way. It's an awful idea.
Austria and Australia are saying no to Gallagher.
It feels like a Eurovision thing.
Near the point. Yeah.
No.
Calvin Phillips, again, I can't see City letting him go. I know that he's a bit peripheral, but they're not going to let him.
He's a bit peripheral. He's a bit peripheral, but they're not going to let him go cheap. What's the problem with him, actually? Why is he not fitted in there?
Well, according to Pep, there hasn't been one, right? Pep's been all, effusive of praise about how he's a great guy, all this, that, the other. He obviously is third choice, right? I mean, this is it. Like, if Rodri's not playing, they'll do something else. Like, he's played Bernardo Silva at left back at various points. Like Calvin Phillips, he's on silly wages because he's at Man City. It's not going to happen. It's a bad idea. I don't really know if Phillips can do what we need either. Like, if he could, fair enough. But like, you don't look at him and think, oh yeah, he's just like Bissouma. He's not. Right. So, like, which role is he going to have? Is he going to be another one for the 8? Like, I'd rather give the minutes to Sarr. And other people have said they'd rather have academy players get those chances. Like, he's 28. He's expensive. Nothing screams Spurs about this. So I can't. It's
interesting because City did win the Club World Cup this evening, 4-0 over Fluminense. But Rodri had quite a bad tackle and did limp off. So there's fears that he might be out injured for a little while. So that, I don't know if that might affect it, Dave.
No, well, look, honest, the summer that he went to Man City from Leeds, I was arguing that we should flog Danish flappy hands and get Phillips in, right? So, but he's had a disaster since he's been there, and he's been unfit, he's been injured. Why would we buy him?
Isn't it more starts for England than for Man City since he joined Man City?
Probably.
So,
no.
Like, he's not a bad player, but we're not looking at signing Calvin Phillips, who's 28 on massive wages, is the type of move Spurs did in the 90s. It is not the type of move that Levy has ever really done. I just don't see it, and I don't see it. We do have limited money. There's no way.
And who is the 90s equivalent?
John Scales.
No.
Leonardson. Like, I always think about Leonardson and Scales when I think about those players who are, it's a retirement deal. Spurs were a retirement club. Poyet was another one.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A retirement team. They're good players. We'll get them for a couple of years, and then what? And then we're back where we started. The only way we ever turn things around is when we started investing in youth. And we bought all those English players under Yol, and we ended up having a team pretty quickly. It's like Calvin Phillips... if he wasn't a Leeds boy, you'd see him going to Man United. But I don't know where he would go. Maybe Newcastle would take him. It's not the type of move that Levy has ever made.
No,
I can't see it.
No.
And
George
That's
Mason.
isn't it?
Bloody hell, that is blimey. Yeah,
you're definitely showing your age now, Norman.
Although you would argue, actually, that Scott Parker was not a typical Levy signing. He was just 30, 31.
He's free, wasn't he?
No, we get it from
Wasn't he a
Newcastle. No, he went to New. I think we got it from New. I'm pretty sure we got it
No,
from
West Ham.
Newcastle.
West Ham got relegated, and we got him. I'm sure we got him for free.
I'm not sure we got. I don't think we got it for free. And because I've read that played Jake Livermore and Nico Cranchar up against Old Trafford, the away game of the season. I think Livermore, yeah, and then we got Parker in. Anyway,
well, that's when Modric was throwing his toys out of the pram, but then he started playing, didn't he? The week after, because we wouldn't send him to Chelsea.
Any other random names?
Yeah, chuck him in the. Newcastle should take Lloris as Pope. It's out for a while. I'm not sure Newcastle are ever going to take Lloris after his performance up at St James's back in March, or April, whenever it was. Are they realistically? April was. I'm just trying to look on Wiki actually, because Wiki's right about everything, Dave, just to see if it says
who
about Parker. Can't see. Let's know in the comments.
I think Dave's right. I think we did pay some money for him. I don't think it was a free.
Oh, Kerry's got it. 5.5 million in 2007, but he only stayed for 2 years, didn't he?
Yeah, and again, 5.5 million is not a lot of money, and it wasn't a lot of money then either. Not really.
No, that's right.
And so,
we paid double that for Rebroff a decade before.
Quite.
We paid, yeah, that's right.
I don't know what's. Let's say City want 30 million for Phillips, right? That's probably what I guess they're looking for, around 30 million.
Yeah,
he's on at least six figures. I mean, well, definitely six figures. He's not on $1 million a week, but 150 grand a week. And Spurs, we don't have unlimited funds. It's a silly decision. Like on loan for 6 months, possibly, but to sign him permanently, no chance.
No.
This is a name that got mentioned a few months ago. Sebastian Caceres. Caceres? What do we think?
No, Uruguayan.
From Team America. Yeah, we discussed him on the show a few months ago. I seem to remember a young centre back who looks quite good. So I imagine we'll be keeping an eye on him. He's on 7.8 million a year, Calvin Phillips, according to Sports Track HG.
Yeah, so that's about 150 grand a week.
Yeah,
he's not coming.
No.
Dave has decreed it. I'll clip that if we sign him, Dave.
You can do that if you want to. Not a problem. A bit like when I said the cheap option.
There's a name I haven't heard for a while, HG. Hincapi at Leverkusen.
Yeah, he might want out, but Leverkusen are top of the league. I mean, it would be a really dumb time to leave. If I'm him, it really is a dumb. He might want to play more. I get it, but that's possible just for the fact that he is obviously left-footed and could do it. But no, I don't see that happening either.
McEwen and Peter Beadle as well. If you're going to go down that route, and then Guthrie, the goalkeeper we signed, that Terry Venables signed, all sorts of. Spurs have looked at the Torino centre back.
That's Buongiorno, I think is his name. Yeah,
Buongiorno.
Yeah, Buongiorno, really. So I just given where Spurs have bought players from in the last couple of years. I know Paratici is not around, but we've had success signing people from Italy, not Italians, but people from Italy. Apart from Vicario, who is Italian, but and
Udogie.
Oh yes, but fine. Yeah, okay. I'd only thought of the other ones.
Galini.
Typically.
Yeah,
but that wasn't a success, so I didn't think of him.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
You never mentioned it, do you, Dave?
No, never.
No, never.
But yes, you're right. And although Paratici isn't around, there's definitely the groundwork is there in the club. But it'll be interesting to see where Lange and his new team of recruitment team do start bringing players in from, because obviously Villa have signed from all over the place. Food from Belgium, possibly.
Yeah, I think we're going to be looking for. I mean, Spurs are a club where players will want to go. That's the good thing. They'll recognise that. Yeah, okay. They may if I'm going to cost a team 30 million quid, and I don't have to be the same from day one. It's not a bad position to be in, right? You get a bit of time to adapt. Whoever that centre back is, has the most pressure on them. But anyone else, you kind of you're going to be replacing people who may leave at the end of January, who may leave next summer, but it's not going to be that instantaneous. And we have the fortune that there are people in our 25-man squad who aren't going to get a look in. So we don't need to get rid of players that we don't mind having around. We get rid of the players who have no chance of playing for Spurs. So, or we just don't name them, but the spots are there, right?
Plus, London's an attractive place to live. We've got that in our favour as well.
And they can do a bit of go-karting while they're there, Dave. So
hopefully.
Right, been going an hour and 40. I think we're planning to be back Wednesday night if we can put a team together, aren't we? Actually, we were discussing it.
Well, I think it makes sense to do one on the Wednesday because it's before the Brighton game.
Of Everton and a preview of Brighton away, and then possibly an instant reaction show. Dave, are you going to be on that on Thursday
Did you
night?
say instant reaction?
Yeah.
I'm sure we can work it all out.
And then Friday, obviously back, and then we'll do a Burnley preview on Wednesday the 3rd, I think. Again, because obviously Christmas Day, New Year's Day both fall in Mondays have disrupted our schedule. How awful of them both to do that.
Yeah, and the fact that you guys have families that you want to visit means that I might be on my lonesome doing these shows. But
I'll be around for some of them, Dave. But obviously I can't do Brighton's reaction because I'll be queuing for the train or driving or whatever I'm doing, getting back from Brighton late in the hour. So
fair enough.
Maybe I'll try and do a little video from the ground with partially drunk James. We'll see how that goes. I will try and get some videos of the Spurs fans singing because I've seen some good ones from Forest. So it'd be great if we could do that.
If you could get if you could get that Robbie Williams Ange song as well, that'd be fantastic.
There was another Ange song. There's the Last Christmas one. There was one at Forest I saw today as well. I'll try and share that. You love your Wham, Dave.
Yeah, all right. I like Wham. Good documentary on Netflix.
It is.
It is a good documentary. Have you watched the Robbie Williams one yet?
I teared up at Wham's documentary. I'm not going to lie.
It's
emotional. I did.
I used to eat in his dad's restaurant. He was in Edgware. And in Bushy Mead Schools down the road from my mum. I used to play football there on a Sunday morning. But enough of my showbiz stories. Let's wrap the show up.
Oh, there you go. Jack's in for the reaction show. So
Jack, you're driving. You are driving, Jack. Get off your phone. Stop watching us.
Yeah.
So on that note, have a great Christmas, everyone. If I don't see you before New Year's, have a great New Year's Eve as well. Thanks for joining us this evening. Please do like, subscribe, share the show with your friends, get them involved, join our Patreon as well, so you can have a chat with us on there. And HG, thanks for joining from Vienna.
No, thanks again. Yeah, enjoyed it as always.
And Dave, again, thanks for joining us from Down Under.
Lovely to be on a show with you for the first time since Arthur Rowe was the manager, John. Lovely to see you. Lovely to see you, HG. Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope everyone has a great and safe Christmas. And see you soon.
And I'm going to say, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.